John, I'll let you kickstart the list. Who's your number 5 in the top 5 teams in the West?
Top 5 teams in the West. That's a great question. I'm preparing my list right now. Start with Riv, and I'll come back in a second.
You think I have mine?
All right, I'll start. My number 1, we're going to start with 1 or we want to start with 5? I know
If we start with 1 and 2, I can tell you those.
All right, so then that's fine. Let's start with number 5. My number 5, I know they haven't been playing the best basketball of late. I know they did just lose last night to the Indiana Pacers. I'm still going to go with the Denver Nuggets. Their defense has not been great, not even a little bit. And I know my honorable mention, I'm just going to say off rip, is the LA Clippers. I say they're honorable mention because, again, I don't know what I'm getting from them. They've been playing excellent basketball this last month and change. I can acknowledge that. But, again, I'm staying consistent until I know for a fact I'm getting a healthy Los Angeles Clippers, really a healthy Kawhi Leonard. I can't find myself fully investing into them.
You don't know that, though.
You don't. You're right.
Yeah.
I don't.
You might never know that.
So there's no. You're just gonna doubt them.
I'm not gonna guess.
Something
Exactly.
happens.
I'm not gonna guess, and that's why I'd rather be on the side of being pleasantly surprised.
But right
truthfully.
now they're healthy though.
And that's been the case
you
last
have
season.
come a long way.
He
my
has been.
friend.
He has been.
I'm just saying, right now they're healthy.
I'm just saying you've come a
It's
long
just
way.
Like based on the way they're playing when they're healthy.
But their history has shown me that they can be healthy in this period of time, and then the playoffs start,
usually
and then
Kawhi gets
things
hurt,
go wrong.
like now.
Go wrong.
I don't
but he
think
got
they've-
hurt against the Suns in that series while he was going ballistic.
he came back from an injury though.
And
in that
then
series.
against the Jazz, he goes and he's playing well, and
But the
then
year
he
after
gets
that,
hurt.
Year or two after that, he got hurt late in the season.
He did.
And then,
Last
like you
year
said, with the
was
Suns, he
correct.
got hurt like a month ago before, and
he
then he got
came
hurt
into
again.
that series hurt.
Last year, I was going to say he missed like the last 9 games and then was ready to play come Mavericks
My
series.
counterpoint to that is I don't think the Clippers have ever looked this good.
I think 2020 was a great team. I think 2020 they had everything. They just were unclutched in the big moment.
I think this team looks better than that team.
What was it? 2021.
2021?
They looked
Oh no, when they went to the WCF,
Yeah, they looked
But I'm
were an
talking
amazing
about
team.
regular season leading into the playoffs.
Yeah,
I think the
couldn't-
Clippers-
regular
honestly don't remember.
season
The
leading
best
into the
they've looked.
playoffs, then I'm really doubling down on 2020. They had arguably the best defense. Kawhi Leonard was playing excellent basketball, and you really had a confident Paul George then too until playoffs
The Clippers
started.
are second in
He was
defensive
great in
rating.
the regular season. So.
Right now, you're saying
They're second,
no. I understand
yeah.
that they're a great defense.
Yeah, no,
I think they've been that all year.
They have been that. Their offense is what's been
I think
lacking,
they're
and then now
top
enter
5
Kawhi.
in net rating since the All-Star break. But your number 5 is Denver.
My number 5 is Denver. I still look at Nikola Jokic, acknowledge him as the best player in the world. That's obvious. And on top of that, too, I think that without Jamal Murray playing, you still lose a little bit of secondary ball handling and offense there. Really like what Aaron Gordon has provided this season. Christian Brown should be MIP, but that won't happen, unfortunately. I can understand where the defense is the biggest concern, but sometimes you just need an overwhelming offense, and Denver has that. I'm going with 5.
Denver's off my list.
I get
think,
that.
That's crazy.
the uncertainty with
The
the
defense is
Clippers
bad.
that
I
you're
get it.
mentioning, I think there's a certainty that I have with the Nuggets that the defense is bad.
It's true.
And on offense, it's Joker or bust. This past week, he had a 60-point triple-double and lost, and a 40-point triple-double and lost. And the other game where he didn't have a 40-point triple-double, they lost.
Triple-double without Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray, second and third best players.
But they still lost with an insane performance.
That's 'cause
Play
of
against
Westbrook.
Minnesota. Yes.
They're playing respectable teams. Pacers aren't slouches.
The Minnesota
Minnesotas.
didn't have Nas Reed or Dante DiVincenzo.
True.
Okay.
To be fair, Ant-Man had 50 with Minnesota, and they lost.
That's
You
true.
can argue Nas Reed is better than Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah.
You can.
Jamal Murray.
Well, Jamal Murray, yeah, of course he's
That's
huge,
their
but
second best
still,
player.
you had
That's a playoff- that's a playoff rise.
you had one of the 3 60-point triple doubles in NBA history, and you lost. James Harden won his game, and Luka Doncic won his game in overtime.
Losing is definitely an
Wasn't his fault,
indictment on.
I'm not
the
saying
team.
it was his fault, but I'm
They
saying
weren't healthy.
They
that
weren't
game.
healthy, and I'm
you
with
lose
you, John.
that game.
So I'm not
But
gonna-
I understand his sentiment of the team itself.
Yeah, but I'm not going to put the Rockets above them in this ranking because the Nuggets
Oh, the Rockets
lost.
are above them.
I don't have the Rockets
I do.
above the Nuggets.
You don't.
No, I don't.
So that means you got a sleeper.
I have Minnesota at number 5, and that's
Lord
because
have
every
mercy.
time they've faced the Nuggets since the playoff series, they have put BTA.
Hey, question. You have Minnesota at 5. You have Denver at 5. You're probably going to have Houston at 4.
I do.
I got the Clippers at 5.
You don't have Houston in your top 5?
They're a honorable mention.
All right, so here's my question with Houston.
I just don't know why we're disrespecting them.
I don't think it's disrespect. I want to play devil's advocate on both sides here.
Okay.
So as I'm sorry, fans, I work all day, constructing my list. I thought the first 3 were easy for me to kind of pick
100%.
who I'm going to be. The next 2 at 5 and 4, I think it's a four-man race between Denver, Clippers, Minnesota, Houston.
I get that.
Now, here's my question. obviously it's going to be experience to why you guys aren't putting Houston in the top 5. Yet they've shown you all year at every waking moment that not only can they beat all these teams, which they have beat all these teams, they can play competitive basketball at the highest level. So my question is, why are they not there? Is it really just experience? And I get the lacking offense thing, but even with that, they've beaten a lot of good teams. All of these teams on this list, they've beaten.
I would happily be wrong about Houston. Mm-hmm. My gut feeling about Houston is that they're a year away from being a true contender and making some noise. I think they can be a frisky first round playoff series, and depending on the matchup, they can win that series. But we're talking about other teams in the West that have the experience and they have the better player in the series. The Warriors, Lakers, OKC would have the best player in the series.
Those are obvious.
The Clippers, Denver, they would have the best player in the series. I think the only team in the West that's in a playoff race right now that you could talk yourself into, or they're better than, and they have the best player in the series, is the Grizzlies. But with how Ja Morant's been playing, you got to give the nod to Ja Morant. All the numbers back up the Rockets. So this is a gut feeling thing for me because they're one of 7 teams to have a winning record against 500 teams. They are top 5 in net ratings since the All-Star break. They are one of the best teams against other Western Conference teams. So all the numbers will point to Houston being legitimate, but this is my gut feeling with them. My gut feeling is, in a series against Anthony Edwards, am I going to bet against Anthony Edwards? I'm not going to do that.
Okay. All right. That's really my question.
The Rockets' defense is going to translate to the playoffs. It's going to be incredible. The reason why I'm lower on them is because, for one, their offense is very inconsistent and unreliable from a shooting standpoint. They're bottom 10 in three-point attempts, makes, and percentage. I look at those lineups and how important the half-court offense becomes in the postseason crucible, where in every single series, they're not going to have the best player. In some series, they're one of the second-best player. And their season, which is incredible, they're a 52-win team. They've exceeded expectations. They've been a top 5 defense all year long, and their offense has been top half. But they've been a very healthy team this year. And we're seeing a lot of these teams in the Western Conference start to get healthy. I'm taking a slight leap with assuming that Jamal Murray will be healthy. Mm-hmm. I'm under the expectation that the Nuggets are really preparing for the playoffs because their expectations don't lie in games 1 to 82. It lies in what they do in April and May. And I believe in those series,
gotta be careful there, John.
Why am I have to be
Because
careful?
last year, I thought the same thing. I was with you last year.
Minnesota last year was incredible, and they were a team designed by the person who built the Nuggets. Mm-hmm. So they're designed to play the Nuggets.
That's very true.
Everything. I mean, Jokic had a masterful Game 5, but everything went wrong for the Nuggets in that series. From the play of KCP and the inconsistency of Jamal Murray in a terrible matchup
100%.
To really the bench being a complete liability. So
Game 7 Jokic, too.
I don't want to talk about that game. So it was
just being nasty.
Yeah, but Minnesota number 5 for me is just people haven't paid enough attention to this. They're 4th in offensive rating since the All-Star break. Julius Randle has added a level of playmaking to that team that they needed since last year, and they have more than enough shooters on this team. Mm-hmm. Anthony Edwards can play on the ball, off the ball. He's improved as a playmaker. Him and Rudy Gobert are a top 10 pick and roll duo in terms of points per possession. So I think Minnesota is a very complete team that has about 8 to 9 players that have played in the playoffs and have played well in the playoffs outside of Randle. I think Randle is the big wild card.
No doubt.
But he's been in the playoffs 2 times already. He hasn't performed up to his level. I think with Minnesota, he's going to perform. I have a good feeling about it.
See, that's the one thing I wanted to do, at least coming in, is not go off previous doubts where I have with the Clippers and I have with Minnesota. Those would be my 2 honorable mentions. Now, there's a little hypocrisy here with what I'm going to say right now because I am going number 4, the Houston Rockets, but I'm going off what I've seen this season. This is a young team that does lack experience, so that's to the point that Riv was making, but we're talking about a top 4 defense for the entirety of the season. Post All-Star break, we're talking about a top 2 defense. Post All-Star break, we're talking about a top 10 offense in terms of offensive rating. They're 9th in offensive rating since the All-Star break. Now, I know that they have the lack of consistent offense. That is their biggest issue. Mostly because Jalen Green, you don't know what version you're going to get. But Joel, you and I were just talking before the show starting. There's a correlation from when he plays good to when he does struggle. When he plays at a very high level and he's his most efficient version, 9 out of 10 times the Houston Rockets are celebrating a W. If you're going to get that player out of Jalen Green, I become exceedingly high on the Rockets. But I think that this defense gives them such a strong floor. They have so much versatility on the defensive side of the ball. And like Riv is saying before, they have a great record against 500 teams. There's only There's only 2 teams that have, or 3 teams, that have a better record than them against 500 teams in the NBA. And in the West, the only team that has a better record than them in the West is OKC.
The team that I feel like the Rockets are on the same tier as is a team in the East. I think they're on the same tier as a team like the Rockets. They're different styles.
Rockets are who? The
Rockets
East version of who?
Pacers.
Got it.
I think stylistically they're obviously different because the Rockets are a defensive first team. But in terms of the Pacers, where we say a lot of things got to go right for them to go on a run, that's how I feel about the Rockets. They are 2 teams that they can muck things up and you can't sleep on, but they don't have the top end talent to compete with the better teams. And in the West, you have that. Like the Clippers at 4, that's my 4 because Kawhi Leonard, when he's been healthy, they're 23-11 this season. That's the second best record in the West, only behind the OKC Thunder from a win percentage standpoint. And you look at the leap that Zubac has taken. People are crediting Harden for it, and Harden has made the game easier on him, but Zubac has gotten better. And I think we're going to have this conversation later. Zubac hasn't been given enough attention for Defensive Player of the Year.
100%.
He's been that elite defensively. And then you have James Harden playing at a high level, Norman Powell, another great scorer. This is the second best defensive rating in the NBA last time I checked on NBA.com. So I'm looking at the Clippers, and with the offense they have, Kawhi playing at his very best, and the role players, this is going to be a very tough team to beat in the playoffs.
I've also got the Clippers in my top 5. They're number 5 for me.
it.
And I want to have them a little bit higher. The reason why I'm not putting them in that top 4 discussion is because I don't know exactly what I'm getting from James Harden in the playoffs. But I expect one thing. Their defense will be amazing. And it has been on that same level of a team like Houston. But why I'm more confident in them is, 1, a healthy Kawhi in the playoffs as that half-court shot creator. It simplifies the game for everybody else around them. And when you look at their team, they don't take a lot of threes. They're bottom 5 in attempts and makes, but they're top 10 efficiency. And that's with Kawhi missing a huge chunk of the season. You look at their lineup between the amount of shooting and spacing they have to the shot creation Kawhi gives you, and the complementary play of guys like Norman Powell, who is now getting back into the lineup, and Ivica Zubac. I believe they have enough complementary players to elevate Kawhi in a way that we saw very much like that 2021 team that went to the conference finals. I don't know necessarily if they're going to have the right matchups to get there, but I do believe they can easily win a playoff series if Kawhi is playing at 90% of what he's been in the last couple of years, 80%, because he's been that good of a playoff performer. He could be 85% of what he once was, and they'll still be winning a playoff series.
Who's your number 4?
My number 4 is the Lakers.
Clippers or Lakers?
Lakers are at 4.
You said Clippers.
You said Clippers.
No, you said Clippers at 5. Lakers at 4.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
I thought we were on 4.
I didn't hear 5.
No, we're on 4, but he
didn't
went
get
at 5. I think he had an honorable mention. That's why.
So Clippers are 5. 4 is the
Rockets
Lakers.
are my honorable mention, yes.
Interesting. Lakers at 4. Nuggets are high, John.
Yep.
Nuggets are high.
It helps that in every series they have the best offensive player.
Riff, let me ask
last
you.
year.
Do you have the Clippers in your 5?
I'm still deciding.
All
it
right.
didn't matter.
Here's the thing. I feel like Denver, Clippers, Minnesota, Houston are all in the same tier. Like, I feel like it's really hard for me to... I'm trying not to disrespect Houston.
There's reason to, but I don't want to be that guy.
I feel like this could be a year where experience could get thrown out the window, and they just, because they play such a different style,
100%.
where like experience does matter, but when your defense is that good,
It's amazing.
and with all those young players on your team,
They don't play
it's-
that young defensively.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
facts.
it's like, yo,
You're
bro,
right,
like
John.
they play way ahead. Like, you would think this is a veteran team on the defensive side of the basketball. Although, if you're telling me like we're relying on Jalen Green every other night consistently against a top end, playoff defense, like if they play Minnesota or something like that, then I'm like, all right, like
You're relying on that, and you're relying on good shooting. You're relying
Dylan
on Brooks, Green, Van Vliet,
it's a lot.
Şengün post-ups.
But I also think I can say the same thing about other teams that have to play them, because defensively, this is a team that can make it really disgusting. If I had to, gun to my head, 5-4, I'd probably go Houston 5. I want to give them a little love. I'll take a leap of faith. I'll go Houston at 5, and I'll go Clippers at 4.
So I was wondering if you were going to put Clippers in your 5, because I think ceiling-wise, if you're telling me 100% signed and sealed that Kawhi Leonard is healthy, their ceiling to me is WCF. I think with Kawhi Leonard, that team is talented enough defensively to go to the WCF. The fact that I can't trust it is why they're not in my top 5. I think the way that they're playing right now, I get why you guys are high on them wholeheartedly. When you have a defense that great, that sound, at every level, the versatility that they provide as well. Plus, you have one of the better playmakers in basketball in Kawhi Leonard, in James Harden. And now you're getting a fringe top 10 player when he's absolutely 100% healthy. I mean, I feel like that to a lot of people is crazy for me to say he's locked top 10 in a lot of people's eyes.
Too.
I just can't trust the health of them. And that's the only reason I'm having reservation.
You're
but
right.
I get where you guys are coming from.
Wait, so
You're
you're
right,
saying
but
you're saying they're not a top 5 team because of health? Because I feel like that's a different conversation.
For me, it's talking about my top 5. Because if we're going by top 5, we could basically do it in the order that they're seated right now. Because the way that they're seated right now, that could be the top 5. I'm not trying to do that like that because I do think that there are teams that deserve respect. I do think that I understand where you guys are coming from when it comes to the Clippers. I just can trust what I've seen out of the Nuggets because they've shown me that the last 3 years.
This is the best plan the Clippers have had to get a healthy playoff Kawhi.
No doubt.
Obviously, they're continuing to do what they've done in the past, not playing back-to-backs, but this is the first time they've had a season start after the new year in the middle of January, where in the last couple of years, he was trying to play in October and November.
Played 70 games last year.
Yeah, basically 68, 70 games. And you look at last year, he's obviously and worn down for the postseason, but if you take out those 2.5 months of basketball and you give him the All-Star break and then you give him this supporting cast, I think it alleviates a lot more pressure to where if he stays healthy this playoffs, you're not going to be as surprised because they've had a plan along the way to get him to April and May.
The last thing I'll say about the Rockets, and I don't want to do this because the Rockets fans are very territorial, and I understand it. They have been
They're
bad for a
52
long
win
time.
team. I mean,
They're a
they-
great
yeah.
fan base.
They have
too.
right
They
to
have,
be.
yeah, they've been bad for a while. So this their first season clinching the playoff spot since the 1920 season. I respect that, and I like the Rockets a lot because James Harden is my favorite player all time, arguably. But they, to me, remind me a lot of the third-seeded Kings, the second-seeded Grizzlies, to where they are a top seed because they play hard every night, they play defense, and they're healthy.
The Grizzlies weren't healthy.
The
When
Grizz
they were the second seed?
Yeah, they
in
weren't
the
healthy.
regular season, they were healthy.
Nah.
You get his point, though.
Like,
The
to
other two
me,
things.
they have to prove themselves because they don't have a real star. And we
for
see
sure.
how much that matters in the playoffs when you don't have that. Maybe somebody ascends of the bunch and they cement themselves and they plant their flag. But as of right now, that's the thing that's holding me back from them. That's why they're not my top 5. But my number 3...
Can I say something real quick before we move on to number
What
3?
if
I'm
they're the
sorry.
Pacers, though?
See,
last year.
And I don't see Kings because the Kings' identity was being one of the all-time great offenses numbers-wise. And they went up against a more experienced, a veteran Golden State Warriors with
37.
Steph Curry.
What if they're that Toronto team with Lowry and Siakam leading the way?
I think
went to the second
Siakam is
round.
better than any player that's on the Rockets right now.
He cooked.
Yeah,
He
for
cooked.
sure. But I'm saying, like, just in terms of they play nasty. Defensively, they're there. They're sound. But offensively, it's a little muddy.
I think, if they played in a tougher conference, they probably would have been first-round exits.
Cool.
The Raptors that year.
That's my point. Like, the Rockets being in the West, winning 52 games, second
Fact.
seed. Like, and
No,
then-
that's what I'm saying. They
Yeah.
play in a tough conference.
Yeah, so it's
that's the
like-
thing. If they were in the East and they matched up against the Magic or the Hawks, I'm picking the
like,
Rockets.
I don't think Sacramento and Grizzlies, to your point, I don't think they had a top record
But-
beating 500 teams those years. Like, I don't remember. Like, I don't recall them
I
doing
think
that.
Joel's point is that what Houston has done better than anybody in the West outside teams like Oklahoma City is that they're winning on the margins. They're pummeling teams on the glass with Alperen Şengün and Steven Adams off the bench, and they have so much length, physicality, and athleticism. You have guys like Amon, who I do believe Amon as a starter this year has been just as good, if not better, than Pascal Siakam in his best years. But and that's highlighting Amon Thompson as a first-team All-NBA defender. That's a
Get
starter.
praising Amon, but respect Pascal.
Amon's been that good.
He's been really good.
I mean, they're a 52-win team somehow. No,
But it's
And
not just because of Amon, John.
Amon is the best defender on
He
the
is.
second best team in the conference,
He is.
or the second best
I know what you mean.
defense in the
Record-wise.
conference. And they're also the number 2 seed, ironically. My issue with the Rockets and why I'm skeptical is not just the fact that this is Alperen Şengün's first time playing the playoffs, and Amon Thompson's. Everyone, with exception
Facts.
to Fred
Fred.
VanVleet and
Dylan
Dylan
Brooks.
Brooks. It's the idea of a lineup in the playoffs in the half court where you're playing Dylan Brooks, who's making 40% of his threes, but we've seen him do that, and then a year later, completely torpedoes in the playoffs when he's being
fact.
guarded. You have Dylan Brooks, Amon Thompson, Alperen Şengün 3 through 5. You have Jabari Smith, who is a
Great
maybe-
spark.
He can be a total X factor if he's making close to 40% of his threes. It opens up the lineup. But what if he's
Lot of
making
question marks.
33%?
Lot of question
That's
marks.
4 guys are kind
But
of.
I
here's the
can't
one thing that
find-
can go into the playoffs, and I know for a fact it'll be there, is their defense.
For sure.
We can have questions about their offense. It's fair. But since Jabari's come back, that offense, especially that bench unit, has really gotten a nice boost. I really understand where you're coming from. I think that the difference between those teams and this Rockets team is that this defense is legit.
So the Grizzlies team, they were the second seed. I can't find the record against 500 teams.
It's really hard to
second in defensive rating that year, 15th in offensive rating.
They were great.
So their identity was on defense, and in the playoffs, the offense was what held them back. And they had Desmond Bane and John Moran.
They were a
and,
terrible
and
three-point
Jaren,
shooting team.
And that's kind of what I see with the Rockets right now. So we'll see. I'll
That's a good
happily,
comp.
I'll
Shit, they
happily
made the
be
second
wrong
round.
about them.
And we spoke
No, I
about
think
that.
they lost in the first to the Lakers.
Which year are you talking about? They were second twice. That's what. So which year?
Oh, but that year they were hurt. Versus the Lakers, they were hurt. They lost Steven Adams and they lost Brandon
lost all their
Clark.
front court.
But if you're talking about the year that they went
like they
up
would've
and
still
again
lost.
against Golden State, that's interesting.
You can't say that.
I'm not going to speak on it. It was
2020
years ago.
in
It's years ago.
2023?
Hey,
He
it's
can't
years
say
ago.
that.
I mean, Anthony Davis shut down
It's
John.
years.
no,
John. Yeah, no.
He can't say that.
And neither can Riv. Neither
That's
can
why
Joel.
he can't say that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, the
it's fair.
Grizzlies
He's
were-
right.
Yeah,
Let's not
that-
talk about
yeah,
it.
At that time, I hated the Lakers, but objectively looking
You hated
back,
the Grizzlies.
the Lakers were better. I didn't hate the Grizzlies.
All right, let's just move on from that because that's not the point. The point is versus the Warriors.
Do you think Steven Adams and Brandon Clark make a difference in that
they
series?
would have beat us on the glass. The reason why we had the huge
do they
difference.
beat you guys
The
though?
huge difference in
beat
that
them
series
on the
was we
Lakers?
beat them on the
Yeah.
glass. We were one of the worst rebounding
was the
teams
big
in
difference. Get to the
basketball.
point, get to the
The whole point was versus the Warriors. The toughest matchup for the Warriors that year going into the playoffs was the Memphis Grizzlies.
I feel like the Grizzlies lost more so because Tyus Jones shot 15% from three. Jaren Jackson
Brooks
shot
was
20% from three. Desmond Bain shot 33% from three.
Dillon Brooks
John
wasn't
Moran
getting
had
guarded
one
for
great
4 or
shooting
5.
game. Dylan Brooks shot terrible from three. Everybody played terrible. I don't think the rebounding would have made that big of a difference to where
That was
they
their
they
identity.
won
to
the
leave him
series.
wide open. He couldn't hit a single shot.
So I feel like the Rockets, I happen to be wrong about them, but those are my question marks. Number 3, I have the Lakers. One of the 7 teams to have a winning record against 500 teams and the second best record against West teams, only behind OKC. My question marks with them is, can the defense hold up in the playoffs? Because the way the Lakers' defensive identity is a lot of scrambling.
Yep.
And when you play one game in 4 days, that can translate. We've seen as of recently with the uptick in the amount of games in the less amount of days that the Lakers have played, their defense has dropped off. LeBron James has been elite defensively, but can that be the case if he's playing every other day at this stage of his career? I think the Lakers don't rely on talent to get by defensively. They rely on rotations and scrambling and just hustling better than teams. And will that energy be there throughout the playoffs for multiple series? It could go maybe even 7. That's my biggest question mark. But I think Luka Doncic, he has been amazing in moments. My concern with him right now, even though he is 3rd in estimated
been a
EPM,
dog.
it doesn't matter. Even with his down season
Yes,
stuff,
he's a dog.
he's still one of the most efficient players in the league, one of the best players in the league. My only question mark is, can your 3 ball fall at the rate that you need it to?
What is this
Because
efficiency
he's
this
not
year?
putting enough pressure at the basket. His 2-point percentage has fallen off. So his big games are very reliant on making a ton of 3-point shots. And if that 3 ball is a little up and down throughout the series, that's what worries me. But the Lakers are really good. And number 2, I'm just going to say number 2 is Golden State. You know, I know they lost to Houston last night. Steph Curry was 1 for 10. They guarded him really well all around as a team. Amen was great defensively. But I look at the Warriors' 3rd in net rating after the All-Star break, and I feel like they haven't even gotten the best version of Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler has learned the system and is running it well and is playing well within it and passing it to Steph when there needs to be an extra pass being made. But I'm looking at his shot attempts per game. Only 11 shot attempts per game. That's the lowest since the 13-14 season. And that's with Golden State, not for the totality of the year. So I look at a version of Jimmy Butler who can uptick that to maybe 15, 16 shot attempts per game and average 20 to 25 a night in the playoffs. I think they still haven't unlocked that. And their role players are playing excellent. AirPods and Kuminga, yeah, he did his thing against the
doing
Lakers.
better.
You know, he's been doing his
better.
thing.
He has.
And I feel like Kuminga's just getting smarter within the system. He's rebounding, he's playing good defense, and he's making an extra pass. So I think the Warriors all around have a good team. And Draymond, I mean, I don't think that even though he went to the media and advocated for himself for the award, I think he's a legitimately still elite defensive player.
Absolutely.
And he's anchoring their defense. So they're number 2 for me.
I respect that. My number 3 is going to be the Golden State Warriors.
After we beat you guys?
And then you guys lost to the Rockets. I can understand, of course, the argument
that
for the
do with us
Warriors
beating
being
y'all?
number 2. Say that one more time.
What the hell is that got to do with us beating y'all?
Because we weren't at our best.
There's a lot of
And
things,
you-
right?
And you
AirPods
got you had
8 threes.
I was gonna say Pods with a legacy game out of
Louis had
nowhere.
24 too, though.
I mean,
But you know that.
He averages 13.
But you know that.
you guys were scrambling.
But you know he can do that.
He averages
Say it one more
13.
You
time.
guys were scrambling. He was
No,
open sometimes.
no doubt. I'll give it a lot of credit to what you guys did versus us. You guys executed a great game
Steph had
plan, and
30.
Steph went absolutely bonkers. You guys are a great
We were
team,
taking advantage of somebody.
which is why
Luka
I have,
didn't play well, though, on offense.
No,
He
Luka
also didn't play well on defense.
See, and that's one of the main reasons why that game, although it matters, I'm not going to say it doesn't, but why I'm not holding as much weight is because our best player didn't play at his best on offense. And he had a bad night. And that's a credit to the Warriors defense. But also when a player like Luka's struggling, it's mostly because of
In
Luka.
the 7-game
Jimmy
series.
didn't play good. He didn't,
that
let me not
offense.
say he didn't play good.
You got great performance from your role players.
I hear it.
Great, like overwhelmingly great. Pod's best game of the season, great.
Your defense was shit that game.
No, it was not good. I agree.
We were taking
but then we just
advantage
bounced
of your
back
defense.
versus OKC, and we just played our best performance
That's
in a
fact.
while.
It's all matchup dependent. Like
100%.
here's what I think.
But that's why I have you guys 3.
Yeah, I think what's been the difference between you guys beating us. You had Anthony Davis
AD.
controlling the paint.
100%.
Respect to Hayes. You don't have anybody at the rim.
What
Like,
about if LeBron plays out the rim?
that's cool. Like,
not gonna do
that's
that
fine. You want to exert all the energy
whole
there. That's
series.
fine by me. But I don't think he's gonna do that. Like now, you guys are just in scramble mode. You had Anthony Davis at the rim who was able to hold down the fort and be that. So now Golden State was stuck out there. Now you got guys like Paz that can go to the rim. Guys like Kuminga that can go to. Now Steph can take advantage. He can get to the rim. Like Jimmy Butler can now go to the rim. Like now you have a kind of a hole in your defense.
That's
to
fair.
where AD did have, but offensively, obviously with Luka, you get better. So it's really just offense. But now you guys play small, which is what the Warriors. That's probably been what they've
That's what they
wanted
do.
to do since Steph Curry got there. Small ball, small ball. So now you're playing into their hands.
Can I say this, though? I think that I've watched the Lakers play great interior defense, albeit you're right. No Anthony Davis versus you guys. We're going to have our difficulties. But for a majority of the Luka, LeBron, Reeves, tenured Lakers, I've seen us play great on the interior.
You guys have moments for sure.
So that's the only reason why I've really... Again, I'm not going to ignore that game versus the Warriors because you guys are not an opponent to take lightly, which is why I have you guys in my top 3. I think you guys are one of the best defenses. I think you're getting the best version of Steph Curry at the absolute perfect time. And one thing I'm a guy who likes to take accountability. I question Steph as being a 1 on a championship team. I don't know if the Golden State Warriors are a championship team, but I can tell you right now, having a running mate makes a huge difference. And we're seeing that since Jimmy has gotten to the Warriors. I got to give credit where it's due. Steph has been nothing but amazing. Until last night with the 3 points. I'm just throwing a joke out there. But regardless, I respect and acknowledge the Warriors. They have veteranship. They have a great
chemistry.
defense. And you have 2 stars.
A ton of chemistry.
And you
3
can argue a
stars.
third because Draymond Green is going to win the favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year. The Warriors deserve acknowledgement. And I agree with you, Riv. It is matchup dependent. But my number 2 is going to be the Los Angeles Lakers because we have all of that as well. I just think that we are a little bit more well-rounded than you guys, outside of the fact that our interior can get brought into question because we don't have depth at the big position, but we've shown through the versatility of our lineups that we can go out there and we can still defend well at the paint. Jackson Hayes has been huge for us, and of course our three-point shooting as of late has really taken a huge jump. Luka Doncic, we talk about the highs and lows, but even at his worst, I guess you can argue, he's still, this month of March, shooting the 3 ball at an uber efficient clip. He's not attacking the basket as much, but the jump shooting has looked like it did last season. And that was a huge concern, especially with the way that he started. He looks back as a jump shooter. And of course, I think he already he's led the team since being there double digits in rebounds, points, and assists. He's already come in and been our best player, and that was what was expected when he came to the Lakers. So they're my number 2. I think we have defensive versatility. You talk about our rotations. It's 100% spot on. That's where we pride ourselves defensively. And then offensively, of course, you have LeBron, Luka, and Reeves, which you could argue is the best offensive trio in basketball.
So we all have the same top 3. John, you don't have the same top 3. I'm talking about me, Drew, and Riv have the same top 3. Just the order is different. Really, the 2 and 3 spot is switched. So, John, sell me on Denver because I know they're in your top 3. Sell me on Denver without mentioning Jokic is going to average 50.
I'm not going to do that. Nuggets haven't looked good. Last night was a brutal loss. They've been 0-4 the last 4 games, 3-7 in the last 10. I should know that's come without Jamal Murray in all of these games where they're starting Peyton Watson in one of those spots.
He's played
in the
well,
lineup.
though.
And he's also replacing a huge void in the shot creation and shooting department.
No doubt.
My optimism in the Nuggets really starts with the fact that right now they're the 4 seed. They're at the playoff start today. They would match up with the Clippers in a 4-5 matchup. The big concern is that the 6 and 7, you've got the Warriors, you've got the T-Wolves. Last year in the playoffs, we saw Minnesota, which was the right matchup to dethrone the Nuggets. And that series still went to 7 games with a lot of guys playing poorly. This lineup, I believe, in a little bit more defensively of Christian Brown in the postseason, who has more versatility at that guard spot than KCP did. Off the bench, Peyton Watson having one more year of development, I think is a positive. And having Russell Westbrook this year off the bench will be better than not having him last year because there was really no one else you could play to spell
Really?
Jamal Murray.
I knew it.
Russell Westbrook is a positive for them in the playoffs?
Just keep going. Just keep going,
better
John.
than nothing.
Sometimes
It's
as a man, you
better-
got to keep going.
Yes, it's better than what they had last year.
Actually,
before
Did you
that
see his
losing.
playoff stats last year?
Let me just phrase
the-
that
with the
now.
Clippers?
I
How
apologize.
about the year before?
What
Clippers
the,
he was horrible.
he was the main guy and he got all the touches because Paul George and Kawhi went out. He was awesome. There's no doubt, but there was like nothing at
That
stake.
was 2 years ago.
I know what you mean. 2023.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah, 2023.
In 2023's playoffs, he played
was
quite
awful.
well.
You're selling me on these role players. I feel like I've been watching them and I'm disappointed.
John, I'm kind of
I'm-
with you. I get what you're saying.
I'm
No,
getting to
he's
my
fitting.
main- I'm
It's
getting
just
to my
once
main
you
point.
mention Russ, that's where people are gonna make the ha-has, the jokes.
I'm getting to my main
Yeah.
point because they're 6th to 7th guy in the playoffs. What I'm really hopeful for is that the
They're 6th
Nuggets
guy.
right now are resting Jamal Murray to make sure he is right for the playoffs health-wise. Because last year he wasn't 100%, and Jaden McDaniels made him look really bad. At times, it felt like he was basically shutting him down in that series. And this year, assuming the Nuggets don't match up with the T-Wolves in that 5 spot in the first round, and you're able to avoid that matchup again, Jamal Murray is a chip on his shoulder and something to prove. And when your 2 best players are huge playoff risers, you have Aaron Gordon healthy, and Christian Brown has been great and consistent all season long, I've got a lot of optimism that they can, in the second round, give Oklahoma City a hell of a series. I don't think they'll win because the Thunder are built to beat them, but I do know the Nuggets in that second round series can do a lot of damage.
But how are
it
they
really
better than
does.
us?
Defensively, I'm worried about both teams. But my
Our defense has been great, John.
optimism in the playoffs, I do not trust the Lakers defense to be good.
With
But
the
in
Nuggets,
basketball,
it's a bit
and
different.
especially in the playoffs, the floor shrinks.
Yes.
And the tensions are the nerves are a lot higher. 3-point shots are
and
not
your
as
best
easy.
Your best defender can't close in the playoffs, and he can't play more than 15 minutes.
Well, even
we're
if
gonna
that's
talk
the
about
case,
Nuggets. Come on the
Dorian
Nuggets.
Finney-Smith is still not going to be active on the court for more than
That's your
25.
best defender.
Well, I
Right
think
now, a guy that can play a
not
majority
even
of the game.
mentioning defenders. I
Absolutely.
think it's stylistically. I think the Lakers struggle against dribble drive penetrators, and the Nuggets don't really have anybody that's going to consistently
us.
beat you off the dribble.
That is y'all.
And the Nuggets' chemistry offensively in the playoffs is something on a different level. They've been playing together with this lineup for 4 years.
Didn't matter last
Christian
year.
Brown plug and plays in. It was a 7-game
Jamal
series.
was hurt, dude. Right? We give we were
He
fair.
was
He was
hurt.
hurt.
He also played bad.
KCP played poorly. I do believe that last year, like we highlighted before, the playoffs were a lot about matchups. The T-Wolves their team was built by the same architect as Denver. They were the exact team to dethrone them because before that, in the first round, they beat the Lakers in 5 games, and they're controlling every game in the fourth quarter where it feels like the Lakers are beating them and they're outplaying them. What do you know? It's that Nuggets offense with a different type of telepathy because of their experience and chemistry. That's why I've got the Warriors at number 2. And I believe that the Warriors check a lot more boxes with Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler, even though I trust the Lakers role players more than the Warriors. I do believe that Warriors Big 3 covers everything. And with Steph Curry, despite last night being so in the playoffs, who also has something to prove, I have the Warriors being the best team to really dethrone this Oklahoma City.
So you're selling me on Jamal Murray
He just
being
wants
the best
5.
version
Not
of
something to
himself.
prove. He just won his 5th, you know.
That's what you're selling
I
me
think a
on.
lot of people this year ready to take Steph Curry at their top 10, thinking that he's not still that true top 10 guy. And quite frankly, I think you give a guy like that, a top 12 player of all time, a little bit motivation, he'll find something like that and he'll use that.
I
to
haven't
his
seen
advantage.
that. When you see it on Twitter, at me, so I can know specifically, so I can attack that
Steph,
first.
that
James,
Steph wasn't a
whenever-
top 10 guy.
He's in her circle.
All right, John. So
James.
Jamal Murray,
Idiot.
outside of last year, was a superstar in the playoffs. He averaged 26. The year where he averaged 21 on not so great efficiency, even though
2019?
he was all right. Yeah, but still, even that year I thought was better than last year.
The second year to start.
They
he was
lost in
young.
the second round. So what version of Jamal Murray do you think the Nuggets are getting? Because it seems like they need to get that
Yeah,
version
they do.
where he's averaging 25.
They do on very good efficiency, and that's the spark that makes them an
Was
offense
that an
most
anomaly?
teams can't guard. It's not an anomaly because you saw it for
He
two
did it
deep
multiple
playoff runs.
times.
2 deep playoff runs.
But we don't know if that was the peak
down.
and this is the
No, I'm
decline.
actually-
I know you're a notorious
There's
Jamal
nothing
Murray
wrong.
hater.
That's the peak. I think
I'm
that's
actually.
fair.
We've seen
No one's gonna
we've seen kind of both
discredit
sides.
that.
That's why I'm
So
going.
you think you're getting all-star Jamal Murray?
I think in the playoffs he'll be better than what he is in the regular season. I don't know if he's giving you 28 because he's going to have his highs. He's
No,
gonna
just
have
like
his
24,
lows.
26.
You need him to give you 4 very good games to great games. And I
24
believe
in
that he can
playoffs
do
is a
that,
lot.
especially in the first
My
round.
only issue with your guys' list, if you're going off faith and belief,
No, I'm going on something I saw when they steamrolled.
but that
them
was
in the
2
finals.
years ago.
With the same exact lineup, minus Christian
Jamal's
Brown.
not the
Christian
same.
Brown can be better than what
Bruce
KCP
Brown
is.
was huge off the bench too.
Jamal's not the same. We have to
Oh,
acknowledge
that's the
that.
biggest difference between the two teams. Don't get me wrong.
And Jamal, he's not that guy that he was 2 years
Jamal
ago.
has 2 inefficient runs and 2 really high runs. So it's like,
Well, his first run was his first or second year as a starter.
yeah,
I thought he
Young
was really
guard.
good that year.
And that was 2 series. 2 series.
I was just looking at
So,
the numbers. I ain't,
Smaller run.
You understand what I mean, though, John?
14 games. It was more than last year.
And it's fine going off faith and belief, especially when it comes to basketball and playoff basketball. But when it comes to what we've seen the majority of the season for the Nuggets, especially in 2025, this defense has not been good.
It's been bad.
And it's been
Very bad.
really reliant on, please, Lord, let Jokic be like this unstoppable force, which 10 out of 10 times he is.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's still not enough.
Your expectation is, because they've not been giving him a whole lot. I mean, you've been without Jamal Murray this recent stretch.
Yes.
I believe that they're saving it for the playoffs because when they won a championship in 2023, they're losing the Spurs and rookie Jeremy Shohan was cooking them. People are saying this is why Jokic is an MVP. They're trying to tarnish this man's reputation based off the way the Nuggets are playing in March. Now, I know this year the Nuggets have not been as good as the Nuggets were in 2023 through October to February. But even then, we tend to really overanalyze those March runs when we look at a lot of teams that are comfortable with their position and they move into the playoffs. They sit guys out, they get them right. They kind of take extra time to make sure they're 100%. I believe that a lot of people then are wrong about the Nuggets, and this year they may not be wrong, but they're overlooking a machine which has been dominant offensively. And it took a T-Wolf team last year.
It's a machine
was
that has
clicking.
one running part.